Today, for the very first time, we get to listen to the brand new Lights album. This is dEd.
You wanna start a fire, fire. We're gonna start a fire.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another album review / reaction here on my channel. I'm here with my best buddy, Chris.
That's
this
me.
way. He's over here, not over here. And we are ready to do another Lights reaction. For those of you who are new here or who haven't seen a video on my channel like this before, if you've just been watching our Metallica videos, this is obviously Chris. I think people have been referring to you as Remote Chris, and then Chris Schoenberg as Present Chris. So Remote Chris and Present Chris, which I really like. Also blue shirt guy, black shirt guy, long-haired guy. So in this case, you'd be probably red shirt guy. Oh, yeah. Red shirt guy. Oh, that's not good, right? That's like a guy who gets killed in Star Trek.
This is over.
Yeah. Hey, I'm happy I even know what that is. I've never seen a Star Trek anything.
I'm about there with you on that.
But anyway, I just want to let everybody know that what we're going to do is we're going to listen to the album. We're going to probably talk over it as much as we can, though we might have to pause and talk between depending on what we are hearing our listening situation is. And then afterwards, we're going to talk about it a little bit. We want to try to get into the music really fast, but before we get into the music, I just want to say that the last time Chris and I reacted to Lights, we reacted to her album Pep, which came out last year. Yep. We both loved it, right, Chris?
Excellent album, absolutely.
I think it was number 4 on my list and number... What for you? Oh, no, it was number 3 for me. I think, and number 2 for you?
I don't think it was number 2. It might have been... It was top 5 for sure.
Because I know my top 4 were White Lies, Joy Wave, Poets of the Fall was my number 1, Joy Wave was number 2, Pep was number 3, and number 4 was White Lies album from last year. So,
how do you feel about that now that it's April? Do you stick to that order?
For those, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, the only thing is I will say I have discovered an album that came out last year that I wasn't aware of, that had I known about it, it probably would have been my number 1. That happens.
That's the worst.
That happens every year, but that's fine. Yeah. I don't mind that. You know, you can't listen to everything in one year. And I actually haven't listened to that album yet. And I'm trying to plan something really special on my channel when I do listen to it for the first time. So I'm not going to even tease that or go on about that anymore. But anyway, we listened to Pep last year, so we do have that reaction here on my channel. I think it's a great video. And that was where we talked a lot about our love for Lights. So if you want to hear us talk about her entire discography, which I have right here, which since we even recorded that, Chris, I do have my CD copy of Midnight Machines that I got. Found one off of eBay for like $5 or something once. So that was great. But I also have Siberia. I have her first EP, Lights. I have her first full-length album, Listening. I have Lights, Siberia Acoustic. I have our favorite album of hers, although I do think Pep is a close second for me. I don't know if Pep surpassed Little Machines for you. Did it?
What?
Is Little Machines still your favorite Lights album, or did Pep surpass it?
I didn't realize you asked me a question.
That's right. I was going on and on. I also have Skinner. Okay, go ahead.
I think no. I would probably put Pep at like a really close number.
Oh, 2. No, your video is stuttering. Oh, well. You know, it's going to be what it is, folks. We haven't found a better way to record ourselves together like this. But anyway, I can see you now, so... Okay, what did you just say? I wasn't paying attention.
I said I think I would probably still put Little Machines at number 1. I would have to listen to them next to each other with, fresh perspective. But it's an interesting thing that happens, like the Decemberists, for example. My favorite album of theirs is The Crane Wife. But my 2 favorite songs of theirs are both on a different album. And so it's like, it's one of those balancing issues where it's like, it's just a much more balanced experience. I think Little Machines, by virtue of muscle memory alone, probably just going to keep it above Pep, just because there isn't anything on Pep that I love as much as the best songs on Little Machines.
But Pep, you think, is a little bit more consistent? Because I definitely think that.
Yeah, I think you could say theoretically that let's say they're both, a chart of 8s all the way across, but then Little Machines has like 1 or 2 songs that are 9 and 10, and so like that's the thing that's going to put it over the top.
Okay, I got you. I would agree. I still think Little Machines is my favorite, though I think Pep is a very close second for me. Because if you remember, back in the day when we used to do Music Room, we talked about about Lights a lot. Siberia was my favorite Lights album, and since then I've grown to love Little Machines a lot more. I think that's
I don't.
So
Siberia, man, I've listened to it a couple of times since over the years, and one of my favorite things to sort of feel out in different albums is the progression of how of the artist's sound over time. And like when you listen to something early and you're hearing something like this sounds like Siberia. Like on her first album, you listen to a thing, it's like, this is Siberia-esque, or you go to it and it's like, this sounds like this could have been on the previous album. You know, it does feel very early compared to the complexity of her music after that. And I think it just doesn't, it wouldn't.
It's really hard to compare them just because Siberia has its own unique sound. Like it's so distorted and so dubsteppy enormous. Like it's so different sonically than anything that's come since. It probably is maybe similar in sound to Skin and Earth. But Skin and Earth I feel like is a lot more close to is that what it is? Skin and Earth? Yeah, Skin and Earth. Yeah, I feel like that's a lot closer maybe to Pep, but I don't know. Anyway, regardless, what I'm saying is you can hear me and Chris talk a lot more about her entire discography in that video on my channel, and I think it's a really great video, so I highly recommend that if you want to hear us talk about Pep. But we're here to talk about dEd. See? dEd. See what she did?
I'm glad that you did that.
See how she did that?
I see what she did there.
You see what she did there? It's absolutely brilliant. So, Chris, have you heard any of this yet?
Yes. I have somewhat passively listened to maybe the first 5 songs.
Okay. I have not heard any of this yet.
Nice.
And I'm scared a little bit, only because she posted something the other day that I saw, and it said something about the running time of this album, first of all, is 51 minutes, I think. It's either 51 or 55, but it's pretty long. And she said that she mentioned, I can't remember the exact wording she used, but something about how stripped down and slowed down these versions of these songs are. And the fact that she used the verbiage slowed down is interesting to me, because I understand, like, if you look at the songs on Midnight Machines, for example, which is the acoustic version, or the sort of like acoustic candlelight version of
Candlelight's a good word. I like that.
Of Little Machines, right? So if you look at these two albums, these are all acoustic-y, candlelighty versions of this album, right? It's very much of the same thing. But I know for a fact, whoops. Oh, hey, I have a burned copy of Midnight Machines in here. Don't need that anymore. I'll go pick that up later and put it back in there. But anyway, I'm sure that the versions of like Up We Go, for example, on here is like a minute or 2 minutes longer than it is on this song.
Okay.
And I wouldn't necessarily say that's because it's slowed down, even though I guess it is because it's slowed down. But just the fact that she used the specific verbiage slowed down really scares me that there's going to be like a ton of pitch shifted vocals in this. And I don't really know why I think that.
I don't think no.
You don't think so?
I wouldn't think so.
Because I'm just worried that she did this thing where she like time stretched the songs and then like took things out and then put in maybe some like acoustic guitars, some synth pads and things, maybe some like minimalistic drummy type stuff. And that these are going to be sort of more like dream poppy, like not shoegaze, but like dream poppy stuff, like rather than like acoustic versions. I'm afraid these are going to be something like slightly different that I'm not going to enjoy as much.
Well, I mean, look what happened with Midnight Machines. You wouldn't call that acoustic either.
I wouldn't either. You're right. And I just had trouble starting to but I will say Skin and Earth acoustic was a little disappointing to me. I didn't think that was as good. But that was like
disappointing.
But that was like a true acoustic album, which is just like Siberia acoustic is basically just acoustic guitar or piano and her singing. And I don't know.
I didn't even know Skin and Earth had an acoustic version. I suppose it would make sense because she does it every album. But
yeah, well, remember though, we talked about that last video because I said all the songs are like the title of the song and then they're like desert version, storm version, whatever.
Oh,
and
yeah, that's right.
When I listened to it, I had originally thought that she recorded it like during the storm or with desert winds or some crap around her, sitting in the desert playing her acoustic guitar. And that wasn't the case at all. It was just like her way of like sort of differentiating the songs from their like regular album counterparts. But anyway, we don't need to, this is just me guessing what it's going to be, and I really don't know. I will say I did click through one of the songs earlier when I was setting up for this to just make sure we had the right stuff all figured out. Mm-hmm. And what I heard was not acoustic guitar, but I didn't really focus on anything, so we'll see.
Let's find out.
Yeah, let's do that. I'm not going to do anything with my pop or anything like that. I got a Dr. Pepper bottle of Dr. Pepper that I'm going to drink while we listen to this.
Very good. I had a Dr. Pepper cream soda over Easter that was quite delicious.
Have you tried the strawberries and cream one yet?
I don't think so. That sounds good.
It's relatively new in the last like two months, I think. But do you remember those old, when we were in high school, there was something that I used to love called cream savers. They were little hard candies. They were striped. Dude, those were so amazing, and I wish that they still made those. And I think
Lifesavers, right? Cream savers. They were striped red and orange, or red and white. Orange and white.
There was orange, red, and purple. And the purple was like raspberry. The red was strawberry, which is by far the best. It was called strawberries and cream. And then there was also orange and cream.
I think I can almost see the commercial for those.
Dude, I loved them. They were so smooth when you put them in your mouth. It was absolutely amazing. I know that for anyone who's watching this that's like, oh, Patrick, they did re-release those last year or something. Like, I know that there was sort of like a Cream Savers resurgence last year, but you have to like buy them online. They're like cost like $40 for a bag of like 15 of them. It's ridiculous.
I love this Cream Savers hardcore nerd stand that's in your comments. Like, well, actually,
you never know. You never know, right? And honestly, like, Cream Savers are good enough that there should be people out there clamoring for them. But my point was the Dr. Pepper strawberries and cream tastes just like a soda version of that. It's absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend. One last thing I want to say, and I forgot to say this at the beginning, I'm assuming because Light's album Pep allowed us to use the audio from that album in this video that I'll be able to use the audio from dEd in this, but just in case it's not, I will upload this video. I'll clearly have labeled on screen when we're listening to things, and I'll count down if Chris and I have to stop between. So if you have to like have your own version of the album playing along with us, whether it's on Spotify or Apple Music, or if you have your own copy of the CD or whatever, I'll try to make it easy for everyone to sync everything up, but fingers and toes crossed, everybody, that we can use the audio that we're actually going to be listening to in this video. And one other thing I will say as well, in the description of this video, along with all that stuff I just mentioned, will be timestamps for everything, and you'll probably be able to see it on the timeline and however you're watching this. So you can skip around. Those are game
changer in YouTube, by the way. I love that.
Timestamps.
That and the bar that talks about like the most played sections and stuff.
Yeah,
like,
that's crazy. I don't know if I necessarily trust the most played thing very much, but
I mean, to me, it's just like the thing, because a lot of times I'll use it, for tutorials and stuff, and it's like, you go to it, it's like, oh, this is the most played, and then you go there, and it's like, this is the part. This is what I'm looking for. This is the part that I came for.
Yeah, I absolutely, I like it. That's a really cool thing. And you're absolutely right, though. Adding timeline with timestamps, absolutely brilliant. And I went back recently and checked some of my older videos that I didn't know how to put timestamps in yet. And the timestamps, they automatically put timestamps in every video now. Basically, if you don't have your videos checked to specifically not have them. Nice. Which when I upload my videos, I have to take off the automatically create timestamps like check mark when I'm uploading, because I put my own timestamps in there. Otherwise, YouTube, I think, supersedes that and puts theirs in there. But on some of my older videos, the timestamps are like ridiculously accurate. I have no idea how they do that.
I imagine it's AI driven. It looks for certain phrases.
Oh no, I'm sure too. Like, but the thing is though, like, for example, on our top 12 albums of the year video, like the very first one we did, like we didn't have any music in the video, but it can tell when we started talking about a different artist.
Nice.
And it's not always super accurate. Sometimes the artist just goes all the way into the next one and then it skips all the way to the next one. But it's a cool thing to have in there that I never, because I'm not going to go back and add timestamps to all those videos. Like, my God, that'd take me forever. So
right.
Anyway, let's get into this album. Really excited to listen to this. 50-some minutes. Okay, so for the last couple minutes, Chris and I have been talking about how we have our stuff set up here and what we're going to be able to do while we're listening. There's no way I'm going to be able to stop myself from commenting while we're listening.
That's fine.
I think the bad thing is the way we have this set up, Chris cannot hear me while the music is going. And we've tried everything we can think of to fix it. So I think what's going to happen is, while we're listening to the music, I'll just make like little things like, oh, that's interesting hi-hat, that's a whatever, but I'm not going to go into anything in detail. Then we'll pause in between each track and we'll talk about it. And we can discuss things at that point, but I'll try not to like mention anything specific that would like initiate a conversation or anything.
Sure.
While we're listening, but I will make little little observations so that maybe pointing stuff out so that the listeners can, or the watchers can listen to what I'm talking about. So, okay, in that case, are you ready for track 1, Chris?
I am.
I'm really excited about this. I think I love the artwork she did for this. I already commented on the dEd being Pep upside down.
Yep, and by virtue of that, the track list is reversed.
Exactly, and I love that.
I didn't know that until just now, which is really fantastic.
Yep, and that's interesting too because Grip is my least favorite song on Pep. So
and I've been wondering if the new version will be, you'll like it better. If
I'm curious.
Your opinion of it.
Right, because what she was trying to do, I really liked. I just didn't necessarily think the execution was like that great. So we'll see. Because the thing that was cool about that song was the synth waviness of it.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming there will be no synth waviness in this at all. So we'll just have to see. So, all right. Oh, Chris, are you recording audio on your end?
I am.
Oh, thank God. Oh my God. I just had a heart attack.
Nope, okay. It's all good.
Thank you, Chris. You are awesome.
It's like we've done this once or twice.
But still, we're all dumb. I screw things up all the time.
Same.
Okay, track 1, Grip, dEd version in 3, 2, 1. Piano. Very pretty piano. Acoustic guitar.
Don't tell me it's a bad thing. Being with you is distracting. You'll be everlasting on my lips. Your small manipulations of the palest imitations test the limitations of my grip.
Whoa.
Of my grip. Of my grip. Of my grip.
With these songs being this chill, I can still hear you so far. So
yeah, I don't think it'll get much crazier than this.
Yeah.
Everything is low passed at like 500 hertz. Not a single frequency above it.
Whoop.
Whoa! What the heck?
It's like sleepy dubstep.
It is! Shoe step.
Feel the side chain on those kicks.
Yes, yes.
Oh
Okay. Interesting. Not necessarily what I was expecting. Hold on. I was trying to fiddle around with this, and I don't like it like that. Okay, so like I said, basically everything was low passed except for her voice at like a ridiculously low frequency. And so that, excuse me, that I'm not like super happy with, but I understand what she's going for. She's going for the dreamy feeling. Piano, and then the acoustic guitar kicked in, right?
Yep, which I hadn't heard before.
Yeah, and so that was really got me excited. I will say her vocal track, obviously it's a completely different take than on Pep. It's like a whole different songs with a different tempo, so she re-recorded the vocals. And I think you can definitely tell that she recorded the vocals, you know, using a microphone that might not necessarily, like in the best scenario, like you can tell that it was very loose. Her production was very loose on this, which is what that's how she always, except for Midnight Machines, that's how she approaches the acoustic, these sort of like versions of her songs. She doesn't necessarily care so much that it's like super high fidelity. She just wants to get the performance. And so her microphone, it sounded to me like she was using sort of like a cheaper microphone. I wouldn't be surprised if that was recorded on the tour bus when she was touring, you know, because I don't know when she'd have a bunch of time to make this whole album because she's been touring so much. So I wouldn't be surprised if she did it in maybe less than ideal circumstances. You could hear moments where her microphone like had some plosy pops and stuff, and so she had to just edit those out. There was no low frequencies really in her vocal track at all.
Yeah, I mean, they would have just disappeared underneath all that bass too.
Yeah, for sure. But you could have still heard it being there if it was there, and you can tell sometimes when someone tries to EQ those things out.
Yeah.
So her vocal track didn't sound like 100% perfect. However, I do feel like it fit with the sort of aesthetic that she's going for, which is the very dreamy aesthetic.
And it could end up being totally different on the
next track
of the songs. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I will say that was very triggering for me though, because earlier today I listened to an album that I have been so excited for. And at the end of this video, Chris, if we have time, we're going to talk about that. So I don't want to waste time doing this now, but I'm going to force you to listen to something and see if I'm crazy or not.
Okay.
But we'll do that if we have time. So that being the song that I'm like least familiar with off of Pep, I will say I didn't feel nostalgic about that at all, because I was thinking a lot of these songs would invoke sort of, or it would like make me feel sort of nostalgic for like a cool new version of a song that I already enjoy, and I didn't get that at all from that song. Did you feel that way or?
No, not really.
Yeah.
I just like it. I don't know how I feel about it compared to the other one, to the original.
I will say
I like the mix a little better vocally, but
Okay.
I love the synthwave aspect of the original. But I really love the things where she did like the big, super wide, like low vocal things, those little bursts.
Yes,
Super cool.
that was really cool. That was pitch shifted vocal. It was really cool. It was used in a really awesome way.
Yeah.
And it almost felt sort of like sinister or something, like unsettling, which is what, to me, pitch-shifted vocals are unsettling because it's unnatural sounding. But when the dubstep kicked in, I was like, what? I didn't expect this at all. So that was a really nice surprise. And knowing that it was Grip, it kind of makes sense because Grip was like a more harsher, industrial sort of sounding song. And to have this acoustic candlelight version or whatever we're calling it be with a cool little dubstep part in there, I thought that was really great. It really fit the aesthetic of the song.
You could call it the Dead version.
Oh, the Dead version. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what she calls them on the album. Okay, I'm curious to see. That really made me think of that mid-range soup term we use all the time on this channel about how it's just like...
But I think the fact that her voice wasn't part of that soup makes the whole world of difference.
I agree. 100%. I agree. Let's see if that continues with the next track, which is Voices Carry, which I know quite well, but also not as well as the other songs on the album.
Sure.
All right, ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1. Electric guitar.
And this song is already so chill on the album.
Yes, but it builds. It's more anthemic, remember?
That's true. I forget every time.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know what to say. All the things that I need to say. I've been dying to run, but I can't get away. Told me I ought to know how to get up and go. Search the sky for the sun, but the clouds are gray.
You can tell her face is like touching the microphone.
I was just gonna say she is a millimeter from that mic.
But still, you gotta sing along. When the night is calling, you know you gotta take it on. It's hard to win.
Yes.
Nobody wanna listen, but voices carry. Voices carry. It's hard to change when everyone wanna stay the same, but voices carry. Voices carry.
What do you think's going on in the background there?
Just her doing some vocal stuff.
That's what I thought.
It reminds me of the background of Muscle Memory during the bridge. When she has that ho part.
Yeah, but it had that pitch down aspect to it, like in the previous song.
Whether you like it or not.
Do you hear there's like almost like a beep, or there's like a humming sound that's going beep, beep, beep. It almost sounds like a cricket frequency or something. I think it's part of the sub-frequency bass. Do you hear that? It stopped now. It's gone. Her track is doubled here. She has two takes.
Now she's somewhere back here shouting into the mic versus right up here.
Yep. That.
How many times does it take to hear me out loud now until it comes out clearly? I want you to come with me. Can you hold me higher and I'll take your hand too? How many times does it take to hear me out loud now until it comes out clearly? I want you to come light the fire. Hold me and we'll go.
Interesting chord there.
It's hard to win.
Half tempo.
Nobody wanna listen, but voices carry. Voices carry. It's hard to change when everyone wanna stay the same, but voices carry. Voices carry.
That cricket frequency is back. It's like way up here.
Voices carry Voices carry.
I don't think I'm catching what you're catching.
Yeah.
Voices carry.
Okay, interesting. How do you feel about that one?
There's so much bass, and not in a way that I'm complaining. I had I was back home for Easter, and I was listening to this in my sister's car, and we were driving on like 680 way up north. Which is
I bet you couldn't hear a single thing happening.
It was all just like the whole time. There was absolutely nothing. I had to like go into her settings and turn the bass all the way down just to get like vocals or anything out of it. It was hysterical.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Yeah, that frequency thing that I was talking about was really interesting. It sounded to me like it was an artifact of something happening and the compression. So like when she would sing, it would basically go away. You could still tell it was there, but then it almost sounded like it was a noise in the back of her track. Like,
yeah, I didn't catch anything like that.
I would assume that her track was such that when she wasn't singing, her track was edited out, right? Like someone went in and cut it and faded them out and in, right?
Or at least there's just no track there. You know, she's silent.
Well, right, but if she's just silent, there could still be room tone and stuff in there, so you have to edit that out. But I'm almost wondering if if they didn't do that, which I could absolutely see being the case for something like this, because to her it's all about the performance and the subtlety and everything. And if she did this all herself, which I'm guessing she may have done this entire thing all herself without anybody else, which also is another thing that kind of, to me, lends credence to the fact that it might have been done on like a tour bus or something. But maybe not. That's just me guessing. But
I feel like if it was in a bus, I feel like there'd be so much room tone from a reverb perspective that would be really specific if she wasn't in an isolated studio space. Like, yeah, she's so close.
You could build a thing around you in a bus. It would be fine. And she doesn't have to necessarily be recording vocals while the bus is going.
Sure, of course. That would be ridiculous.
Right. But I mean, it happens. Damon Albarn has made an entire Gorillaz album while they were touring on the bus. And I think his rule was that it could only be recorded on an iPhone or on an iPad at the time. And every song was recorded while they were moving. Wow. Or something like that. So I think that's how...
and there's plenty of things that you can do, like noise removal and de-reverb and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's not possible.
But even still, like really big, huge buses, there's not a ton of like noise inside the bus. But anyway, true. It doesn't matter because we're probably wrong. She probably recorded all of this at her home. So, but anyway, that I will say that frequency thing that I picked up on and then couldn't not hear the whole rest of the song kind of ruined that song for me a little bit.
That's interesting. And I don't... Because what if it's a hardware artifact too? Like something to do with your headphones being different? Like,
I don't think so because it went away at times.
That's... Well, I don't mean like it's something your headphones are doing, but just like a clash of the way that it's reproducing certain frequencies.
Yeah, it sounded to me like at first I thought it was a specific bass tone she was using had like, because some if you mess around with like synth basses, some of them are basically just like sub frequencies, and they're so low that there's like a higher pitched frequency that happens simultaneously with the super low frequencies, and you don't really pay attention to it. It doesn't matter. We don't need to dwell on this aspect of this, but it was something that kind of threw me off a little bit, and I was hard to focus afterwards. I was curious to see at the end there because in the original version of the song, the whole song builds, right? So each chorus a little bit more happens. Each chorus a little bit more happens. Or the second chorus, more things come in, and then there's the bridge where it gets down, and then it comes back in, and that's where the stompy, like shouty gang vocal background part happens. When the third chorus happened in this version, everything came down, and the tempo of the song went to half tempo.
And so the opposite direction.
I was curious to see if she was going to continue that, but instead she did half the verse, and then it kind of stopped, and then she went back into basically the same thing that was the second chorus. Now, how did you feel about the switch there in that last chorus? She did half of it with sort of half tempo. And then when she switched to the second half of the chorus, her vocal went from being right in the middle and drier to her very affected stereo vocals, but her middle vocal went away.
Yeah.
And to me, I did not care for that.
Oh, interesting.
That was something that was very distracting to me because it went from her vocals being here to then all of a sudden everything kind of picked up and her vocal went like this and it was spread wide.
Yeah.
And I understand what she's going for. Chorus, wide, big spread vocals. And the second chorus was all that way. So there was no like moment where your ear is kind of drawn anywhere specifically. But having it done like that, I feel was very distracting. And I really missed her center vocal when it went away. Did you notice that at all?
I didn't really pick up on that. That didn't seem to be problem for me. One thing I did find interesting that isn't really a complaint, but it was like during I was like, at the middle of that, the reverb would come way out, and then as she fell out of it, it would sort of clean itself a bit, and it would go back to just a clean vocal, and it would, it adjusted with the size of what she was doing, which was really neat.
Okay, let's keep going because I'm curious to see what else we're gonna hear. Those two songs were pretty similar. Actually, the way they sounded tonally, so I'm curious. Oh, now this song is my favorite song on Pep.
Yeah.
This is Okay. So I'm really curious to see.
Oh, no, I disagree. Mine's Easy Money, which is number 4.
Oh, okay. Well, I really love this song, so I'm curious. This is the one if you ask me which one I'm most excited to hear, it would be this one. So, All right, ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1. Also, this is the longest song.
Oh, yeah. How much longer is it than the normal version?
I would say at least a minute and a half. Because I think the original version's 3.5.
Nice.
I'm tired of talking about no feelings. I'm stuck in a loop. I gotta get out now. Tunnels and
Much slower.
It sounds like a different microphone was used on this one.
always looking for you.
For her vocals.
I just keep my head down. I always say I'm the happiest sad girl you'll ever meet. Hey, hey, hey.
Ooh, that's cool.
Maybe I just need you closer to me. You could say the forest lava.
Yeah, sweet.
Day,
Whoa.
my lover. Swim away. Call me over.
Don't like the sidechain compression sound.
Night,
It's really extreme.
Yeah.
closer.
It's a choice.
Right.
Okay.
It almost makes you feel like you're having a problem inside your head.
Yeah. It's very unsettling.
Yeah.
Say, okay, okay.
It's like she didn't know you could adjust the settings on a sidechain compressor.
Okay, whatever you say.
That's going to ruin the song for me if it's like that the whole time. We'll see.
I am see-through when I'm with you. Up and doing overtime. Keeping it together could convince me of anything. This is matter over month. Make me feel better. I always say I'm the happiest side.
Nice auto-tune in there.
Hey, hey, hey. I think that maybe I gotta just need you closer to me. You could say the floor is lava.
Love that synth.
Be my lover. Swim away. Call me over. Twist the knife. Pull me closer. I'd be like, okay, okay. Okay, okay. Okay, whatever you say. Okay, okay. Okay, okay. Okay, whatever you say.
That frequency is still there. It's right up here.
Whatever you say.
It's being sidechain compressed as well.
Whatever you say.
It sounds like a cricket, like a constant cricket frequency.
Like a chirping?
It's not a chirping, it's a constant thing, but it's very much an electronic signal.
Huh.
But you can hear it. This is awful. This is like legitimately awful bad. Oh, that was terrible. In my opinion, that was unacceptable amount
of the sidechain or
Yeah.
other stuff.
Yeah. And the thing is, when it first started, I thought the sidechain was like on the music and not on her voice.
Mm-hmm.
But then
I agree that it was.
the more it kept going at the end here, you could just straight up hear her vocals being dropped. Like anytime she had a word on the downbeat, it just totally, like, no matter what she was saying, it was just all of a sudden it was awful. That was terrible. That, like, awful. I hope no other songs on the album do that. But we've had 2 songs that do that. Now the fact
that's pretty extreme, and yeah, I don't know why.
Like, no one could listen to that and think that it sounds good unless she was trying to do that on purpose to such an extent that she wanted it to feel, like you said, sort of unsettling.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is,
really
like,
unsettling.
The thing is, though, like, you couldn't hear the drum then. Like, she was doing little, like, because the kick drum wasn't just bum, bum.
Right.
You know, there was a kick drum doing that, and I think that was what was the effect that was causing it.
But it would happen on the snare thing too. Yeah,
it would. But I think that's because she had a whole separate track of just a kick that was on the one of every measure.
Mm-hmm.
Or
I see.
On every beat, basically, since it's so slow. Mm-hmm. So I think there was just a track that we weren't hearing that was just lowering the volume of everything. But I almost wonder if some of that happened in mastering, because I just don't think there's any way she would have done that to the vocal track. So I'm wondering if she had, like, some sort of, like, a kick drum in there that was, like, so intense. The mastering guy, whoever was mastering it, was like, okay, we got to do something with this. And then because of whatever he did, that caused the sidechain compression to such an extent. But I don't know. I'm not blaming it all on him, on the mastering, though, because that was clearly, like, a thing that I assume she wanted it to sound that way, but I just don't get it. I think that was a bad decision.
Yeah. And the release on it was so weird. Like, it was so slow. Mm-hmm. And it would come down and then it would come up and then it would go up even further after that. And it's like, it just took so long.
Well, in electronic music, sidechain compression can definitely be used as an effect like that. Mm-hmm. A lot of the time it's used to, like, make things sound like the song is breathing. A lot of times it's used on bass and synth pads and things to make it feel like it's going whoa,
and make room and, you know, all kinds of stuff.
Right. In all other genres of music, sidechain compression is used in a way that you're not necessarily supposed to notice it. Like you were saying, it's supposed to have, like, a fast release so that you don't necessarily hear that. The point of it is to try to get something to stand out in the mix a little bit, so it brings everything else down a little bit. But
yeah,
that was done really poorly, in my opinion. That was, like, objectively bad.
That could have been dialed back like 30%.
Oh, I think it could have been dialed back a lot.
Yeah.
I just think if she was doing that to, like, the mid-range soup stuff, that'd be fine. Mm-hmm. I don't think it
took over too many things.
Yeah, I don't think it needed to be done to the vocals at all, and I don't think it needed to be done to the drums. Sorry, I'm going to turn my phone on silent. Unless, was that you sending me something? No.
It wasn't.
Because what I was going to say earlier was you can hear she had, like, sort of like a kick pattern. Mm-hmm. That was like boom, ta, boom, boom, ta. Well, you could hear all the kicks when they weren't on the 1 or the 2 or the 3 or the 4. Like any of the little ghosty kick notes in between, you could hear those. But when the kick or the snare drum happened on the downbeat, it was basically just gone because it was gone from the sidechain compression. So, man, that is a bummer. Mm-hmm. Let's move on and hope that the rest of the songs are better than that, because that was really disappointing to me. And that was my favorite song, too, so. All right, you ready to move on to Easy Money?
Yep.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
I expect you on your worst behavior.
Auto-tune.
I ain't a giver, but you know I'm not a taker. Yeah. When you're riding in the night, I'll be shotgun. Yeah.
Remember that percussive element? It's like way back over here.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. It's very glitchy sounding.
Until the last dollar. Tell me, would you put your money on me? Count it 1, 2, 3. Both of us are trouble with the cup in safe with me? I wanna know, baby, would you count on me?
Again, you can hear that sidechain compression in every beat, but not on the vocals this time. Just the background mid stuff.
What?
The sidechain compression.
I'll be there in the heat of the Cold War.
So it's not on the kick, it's the snare drum at all.
Going for it. And if money is time, then I'm burning mine, and you're off the line, and I'm taking mine, and then I'm gonna see that we get all we deserve. 'Cause baby, you know that I'm a man of my words. Tell me, would you put your money on me? Count it 1, 2, 3. Both of us in trouble with the capital T. But you're safe with me. I wanna know, baby, would you count on me? 'Cause I bet on you, baby, that's easy money. That's easy money. Easy money. Easy money. Easy money. That's easy money. Easy money. If your bills are late and you're understand, you know what they say. Only the broken dream, and time is money, and I'm not this way. You don't gotta
Switch to real drums, I think, yeah?
baby, just spend the night. If your bills are late and you don't understand,
Sounds like it.
what they say. Only the broken dream, time is money, and I'm not this way. You don't gotta spend the money, baby, just spend the night. So tell me, would you put your money on me? Both of us in trouble with the capital T. I wanna know, baby, would you count on me? 'Cause I bet on you, baby, that's easy money. That's easy money.
I like the way at the end where it was just silence and vocals. Very cool.
Yeah. You know, during that part, the crickety noise went away. It was there the
I would
rest
love
of
to
the...
be able to hear this.
Yeah, it was there.
Sound.
Now I am starting to wonder if it is some sort of a weird thing, though, because, I don't know. It's definitely when there's lots of low frequencies. I don't know. Maybe it is my headphones. Who knows? I've had these things for a long time.
Yeah.
So I think that the chorus here was cool with all the vocals. Mm-hmm. It was, you can tell that it was all her and then just pitch shifted.
And different effects, yeah.
Yeah, and you could tell that she recorded it all with that same microphone. It sounded all of similar quality.
Do you think it was the same? She just did the recording, the vocal, and then it was just duplicated.
No, it couldn't be. You'd be able to tell that right away. It has to have been different takes. There could have been some takes that were like spread wide, doing like a stereo delay on them, but there was at least 3 vocal takes of hers in there.
Sure.
Probably 4 or 5.
There'd be no reason not to do it. I would hate a huge part of my job is to eliminate or at least mask repetition at all costs. And I just don't see why you wouldn't, at least do a couple of different takes.
Well, you can't. You should mess around with stuff. I'm sure maybe you have even, but like you should try to just like sing a line and then try to duplicate that track and add effects to it. Because all that happens is you start to get millions of comb filtering frequencies that sound awful.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The thing is you have to have different takes because the imperfections in each take, the human element of each take is what allows it to feel separate. Otherwise it would feel like a giant mass of conjumbled frequencies. That's why even when they record microphone, when they use microphones to record guitar amps, they might put several microphones on the same guitar amp and record the same signal. So it's not necessarily different takes of the guitar; it's the same take, but you're using different microphones, and then you can you can place those different like. You can use that to spread a mono signal out, and actually it becomes a stereo signal then. But
it's crazy how easy, how small of an adjustment you need to make something not be the same and not sound the same, but how painfully obvious it is when something is just a duplicate. It's crazy.
It's absolutely true. Absolutely. And that's where chorusing and all sorts of stuff comes into effect. I really liked the idea that this chorus, it was interesting because that was when all of the vocals came in, all the vocal layering, the energy of the song felt like it came down. Right? Because everything else underneath kind of went away, or at least was minimalized, and the vocals were the key. But then the vocals were so much wider and spread and thick, and they filled the whole stereo spectrum. And then at the very end of the song, when it was just that, I thought it sounded really nice. I like that idea of having the vocals be somewhat intense in terms of how many parts there are, but they're still doing the chill, laid-back part. And it's such a crazy effect because you can hear all it sounds like a chorus of like aliens and stuff singing, you know what I mean? It doesn't sound natural, but it still sounded chill, and it still fit the vibe of what she was going for. Again, that had too much sidechain compression in it, but it wasn't as egregious as the previous song. And you could definitely hear that time. I was trying to point it out, but I think it was too loud for you to hear me. The snare drum in the second verse had no sidechain compression on it at all.
No, I did hear you when you said that, especially when they switched to real drums. There wasn't any.
Right. And I was going to say, too, you said real drums. It sounded like real drums, but there's no way those were like someone actually playing the drums. They were
Probably
just like
a real drum
samples that were the sounds of real drums, But it was cool because she had that little hi-hat hit in there, which is one of the things that made it feel very much more acoustic-y, because that's something a drummer would do, and not necessarily someone programming a hi-hat part would necessarily do. So very interesting. Let's just keep moving on.
Let's do it.
This is Real Thing. Ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1. I wonder that was what that was a recording of.
Every day I try, gets a little harder, trying to keep my head above water.
Now this song already had vocal manipulation in it. On Pep.
I can't ignore, I'm halfway at that door.
Man, that cricket frequency is back.
I'm looking for the real thing. Always looking for the real thing.
No sidechain compression whatsoever.
Right, yep.
I spoke too soon.
It's going to show up eventually.
I love the distorted drum loop. Okay. Interesting there with the sort of dubsteppy elements, but then kind of keeping that piano throughout was really nice. I think at this point we can definitely tell what this album is.
Yeah.
I'll be surprised if it deviates from this very much. And I have to say I am a little disappointed with what it is. It definitely feels like someone time stretched her songs and then she just kind of recorded piano and her vocals over the top of it a little bit. But that's not what it is. Clearly there's more going into it than that.
Yeah.
Like one of the cool things we heard here was you heard a little moment where they had like some gang vocals that they recorded for the original song. And you could hear everyone in the studio kind of like singing and doing and clapping with it and stuff. And clearly that was something that I think was recorded for the original version of the song. And then she just time compressed it to stretch it. So that was awesome. The fact that that was in there, I'm pretty sure that that's how that was done. I really liked that element of it. And I thought that I could hear some different vocals that were done other than just her and then pitch shifting it down.
Well, that track features the other producer, Elohim,
right,
that she's worked with before. So I imagine he was...
Yeah. And then it started out with that like sample of someone, like two people talking in the studio, maybe in the background.
And laughing, yeah.
And I wonder if that was them two talking when they were recording. So that's really cool. That was probably my favorite song we've had on the album so far, I would say.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't find that song to be especially interesting anyway.
Yeah, you didn't like that song as much as I did on Pep, I don't think.
Sure.
Because that one was one of my favorites.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I feel like I'm always cutting you off.
No, I don't. It's kind of nice because a lot of times I feel like I don't have a ton to say.
Well, that's all right.
Sometimes I do, but otherwise, no.
I'll never not have something to say.
Right.
Especially,
for sure. So
especially since it is being totally honest. Like this is disappointing to me so far.
Mm-hmm.
So I
would say that I would consider this to not be an especially engaging album so far.
That's true, and you have to have expectations set correctly. You know, like. Mm-hmm. Poppy, for example, made that album that was like music to read to, right? And I was like, this is not music for me. I don't care about granulated synthesis, 10-minute long tracks of just like noise and beach sounds, you know?
Right, and it's like that, yeah.
And this is getting closer to that, almost.
This is still music, and it's still, it does what it says on the tin in terms of what I expected, especially after Midnight Machines, just being, this candlelight version without necessarily being acoustic entirely. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. There are not a ton of situations in my life, especially now where I have to use my ears so often for other things that make money.
Sure.
Where I can figure out why I would ever listen to this by choice.
Yeah. And I just want to make one thing like super clear. If people are seeing this and don't necessarily understand, Midnight Machines is like 150 million times better than this. Midnight Machines sounds like a band sitting down and performing slow acoustic versions of her songs from Little Machines. Like the arrangements of the songs were all made to specifically be individual arrangements of those songs, but like every song features like bass, real bass, real drums, and acoustic guitar or piano. Those are like the core elements of the songs, and then her vocal performance. But they went in the studio and did it like they were making an entire album, like a full length album. It's
been a good while since I've listened to Midnight Machines because everything you're saying is more complex than I feel like I remember it being. So that's really interesting.
Yeah. Midnight Machines is, in my opinion, the highest quality thing she's ever released in terms of audio.
Interesting, yeah.
And so I think that, and that album holds such a special place in my heart because of circumstances that were around it. One of my friends he passed away while I burned him a copy of that album, and I was going to take it to him in the hospital, and he died before I could get there to give it to him.
Oof.
Which isn't a big deal.
But, I didn't know that.
But Crunch, the guy the announcer who used to do the announcer for the music room, he had something bad happen to him, and he was in the hospital, and we had been talking about music before that because of our podcast. And so I was going to burn him a copy of that album because I had been talking to him about Lights, and she had just released it at that point. And so I actually burned him a copy, and I was working at a recording studio at the time in Omaha, Nebraska, and the other guy I worked there with, we were going to go visit him in the hospital. And that day I burned him a copy of the CD, and then that day he passed away. So like when I listen to that album, I think about him, which is interesting, but I also think about like how phenomenal those songs are and how great it sounds and everything. So there's a lot that goes into that. But to me, like this doesn't even touch that in any stratosphere. This is just like slower versions of her songs from Pep with a 500 hertz low pass frequency filter on everything except the vocals. Pretty much is exactly what it is. I will say,
and I was wrong when I said Easy Money was my favorite on Pep. I think I was thinking of Money in the Bag.
I was going to say
Money in the Bag, Salt and Vinegar, and Prodigal Daughter are like the 3 top peak songs for me.
I was going to say I thought you liked Money in the Bag the most, but then I thought maybe you had changed it. So
no, yeah, I just had the wrong Money song.
That's too much money to go around, I guess. Okay, let's keep going, and we'll get to your favorite one eventually. But first, we got to get through Sparky, which I really enjoy. That's probably the song that has grown on me the most since we did our reaction to it.
Okay.
I've grown to like that song a lot more. So,
nice.
All right, ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1.
Try me now, you know I've been waiting for you. Sleepless now, 'cause I can't get myself down.
Auto-tune.
Why do you act like that's so bad?
Because you shouldn't notice it like that when she's so phenomenal.
That's fair. That's fair.
I have nothing against the use of auto-tune. I use it voluminously myself but I'm not as good as her. So
You know you're going up with me too. It's 3 in the morning and I'm coming in hot. Back in the city and I'm here for the jackpot. Oh. You wanna start a fire?
I wonder if it is my headphones. It can't be though.
Wait.
It's almost like a whistling sound at the top of the frequency.
I think I heard it.
Once you hear it, you won't unhear it. I'm pretty sure it's in the track. I like that. That's cool. I love that. Now it's gone.
Right. I think I heard it. I'll get back to you.
This sounds phenomenal. I love that pad in the back. Just a simple drum beat is all it needs to be. You were doing that and I thought it was in the song. Hey.
Never could take anyone's advice anyway. It's 3 in the morning and I'm coming in hot. Back in the city and I'm dying to go off. Oh.
Now, are you getting some distortion on the sides with the bass? Do you hear a little distortion in there?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if that's supposed to be there. That sounds like bad distortion.
She's got distortion on her voice too. I bet it's.
No, I know that, but I think that there was too much low frequency and it was distorting. But maybe not.
Can take you better and you know that I'm up on the market. You don't wanna stop me when I'm on top, baby. You can call me Sparky. It's 3 in the morning and I'm coming in hot.
Woo!
Back in the city and I'm dying to go off.
honestly, this just makes me want to listen to Pep. I'm just like, come on, get to it. Have the cymbal crashes. Let's do it. Come on. Who's got time for this? I'm not trying to lay down and go to sleep right now.
Exactly.
I want to hear good music.
I hear that. Not all the time, but I'm getting that cricket sound.
Yeah, you can hear it. It's doing a sidechain compression. You'll notice it in every song now. Congratulations.
I don't know if I will, because it only showed up a couple of times, a little bit here and there in this
Okay.
song.
Well, maybe, who knows?
But I do think I heard it. It kind of reminded me of Fluorescent Lights.
Yeah, yes. The sound that fluorescent lights make when they're, 100,000%. That's a way better example of saying it rather than crickets.
And some cricket.
What an
sound.
idiot.
But yeah. That was cool.
Yeah, that was a very Gorillaz thing. I liked that. I liked that version. Yeah. Like I said in there though, like I'm just getting the feeling that I want to go listen to Pep instead of this. And maybe that's just me. I need to let's separate ourselves from that. This is a different version. It is what it is, I
had a friend tell me one time that there is no such thing as an acoustic version that's better than the original version. And I think I'm
just
on board
play a
with
Midnight
that.
Machines.
That's fair. But yeah.
But that's it. Midnight Machines goes so far beyond being just an acoustic version.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
And but I totally understand that feeling of this just makes me want to listen to the normal song. That is so real in acoustic versions of stuff all the time.
I mean, to me, the point of an acoustic version, if especially to me, the coolest thing is, for example, my favorite sort of acoustic, there's a band that I really love, a metal band from, I think they're from one of the Scandinavian countries, but I'm not sure exactly which one, called Emil Bowles. And they released for their 20th anniversary as a band, they released an album called, I forget what it was called, but it was Candlelight versions. The Candlelight phrase that I use is from that album. It was Candlelight versions of 20 songs from over their 20 years as of their career. And they were a metal band. So they took all their songs, their metal songs, and made them acoustic drums, electric bass, and acoustic guitars. And those are the only instruments they used. But they didn't make everything slow into a ballad. They still were strumming and stuff, but it ended up sounding more like sitting around a campfire sort of singing metal songs rather than screaming them. And I think that was a really awesome album, and I think it sounds phenomenal. The drummer was using brushes, and he was doing the things that he should have done as a drummer to accompany acoustic music rather than metal, because sometimes metal drummers and heavy music drummers don't necessarily get that memo when they record the acoustic album. But then at the same time, I think of the Demon Hunter acoustic album, right? I forget what that one's called, Angels and Demons or something like that. But I definitely think there are some versions of songs on that album that are better than on the metal versions on the slow metal versions on their songs. But anyway, yep.
Have you listened to whatever the acoustic version of Digital Renegade is?
I have not. That's really interesting that even exists.
It's very, very good.
That's very surprising.
It's super complex, and it's the energy isn't lost at all. It's just got a lot of different things in it. You should check it out.
That's really interesting because that album is very electronic. So I love it when bands do stuff like that. This isn't really the same kind of thing, but VNV Nation recorded an album where it was just him, Ronan Harris, singing with an orchestra.
Oh, cool.
With a string section. Now
that's what Evanescence did something similar, right?
Well, Evanescence is orchestra and then synth music, trip hop music.
Okay.
Underneath it, which if you haven't listened to that yet, that's one of my top 20 favorite albums of all time, Synthesis, which they actually have a live Blu-ray show of that as well.
Nice.
When they were performed with an orchestra. But so I don't know if you would consider that to be acoustic, because technically I guess it would be. But you generally, when people say acoustic version of a song, it means it's a guy strumming an acoustic guitar and singing the song without much more accompaniment. So I guess it's just different versions of things. But anyway, yeah, Lights, I don't know. I'm sorry. I feel like we're talking about other things because I kind of just want to avoid talking about this. But
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's just this will probably end up being my least favorite thing she's done.
Wow.
We'll see. We're halfway through. So let's move on to...
give me 1 second. I got to head downstairs for a sec. I'll be right back.
Yep, that's fine.
And that Icy Stars album is called Phases, and it's not necessarily an acoustic version of Digital Renegade. It's got stuff from Digital Renegade and New Demons on it, too, I think.
Okay, I'll have to look that up. All right, ready to go on to Rent?
Oh, yes.
Not one of my favorite ones from the album, but again, this is an album full of pretty much bangers. So, all right, let's. You ready? 3, 2, 1. See, I just wish there would be more of her just like playing the piano and singing.
Yeah.
Or playing the guitar and singing. But that's not what she was going for, and that's okay. Whoa. But that frequency is really strong in this song. See if you can notice it. Or don't, because then it'll ruin it for you. My imagination is as tall as your word. I keep a checklist of offenses. Love the trap hi-hat. Ooh.
Love that synth.
Yes. Whoa. When I close my eyes, explosions in the sky, loudly in my mind, but I think there, did you hear the frequency go away? She is such a good songwriter. Such clever lyrics.
It's like... It's almost like a train. It's almost even like an accordion, and it's the thing that she's doing changes every time it comes in, which is really interesting. Sometimes I'm a floating head, nobody. Just drifting over my bed, nobody.
Remind me to ask you a question about autotune after this. Imagination is as tall as your words. I keep a checklist of offenses. It's very layered vocals.
Love that train.
Yeah, yeah. And those are
very cool.
It's really cool, very tight, harmonied vocals. That you can tell.
Those swells are vocals?
Yeah, yeah. With multiple layers, because when you're using I was going to ask you this. Well, there was two things I was going to ask you about autotune. One thing is, you can hear auto-tune being activated on her tracks that are pitch shifted. So my question to you is, do you think that she records her vocals and then adds the pitch correction to them and prints that to the track and then adds effects over the top of it? Or in the case of the pitch shifted vocals, do you think she records her takes, pitch shifts them, and then puts autotune or some sort of pitch correction on the track that has already been pitch shifted?
I would say that's the route that I would take. Shift it first and then put auto track.
Because when you pitch shift things, and when you pitch shift things like intentionally the way she's doing, like pitch shifting a high vocal
down to like a whole other part, like a different register,
there's definitely going to be like artifacting that happens and things
especially if you don't slow it down too.
Yeah, well, and that for sure. And it sounds like that's what I was going to say. I think that she pitch shifts the vocals first and basically like commits to how they sound that way and then does the effects on top of it after that. The other thing I was going to say was, have you ever worked with any sort of pitch shifting software that allows you to like make chords out of just one sound? Like Melodyne.
I'm aware of Melodyne. Yeah. I have not used it. But
I've never used Melodyne.
What you mean by that?
I've never used Melodyne either, but I do have, even on my really oldest stuff from 2005, which is what I use on all my music stuff. I have some vocoder things that I can do. And with vocoder stuff, and I assume Melodyne works in a similar way. And there's so many vocal manipulation things nowadays that there's so much stuff I don't have any clue how it works. But I assume it's similar to when you like program in MIDI notes. And what she's doing a lot in these choruses when she has these pitch shifted vocals is she has her track, right? And then she loads it into the program to mess with it, and then she'll like pick the frequency that she wants it to be, the notes, and then you just basically like program the notes on like a keyboard, like a music keyboard. You program the notes that you want the vocal to be, and it just makes the notes that frequency. But then what you can do is you can add like multiple tracks of it. So the program itself will just multiply the take and then pitch shift at a different frequency. And so that's how you get those like really tight harmony sounds, which to me makes me think of like that Imogene Heap song and stuff, because she did that a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
That Imogene Heap song that's very famous for that. And since then, lots of people have done things that sound that way. Yeah, I'm not saying she was the first though, but that's definitely the thing that comes to mind for me.
I think there's no way she pioneered it, but she definitely made it popular for sure.
Yeah, that's my association with that sound is her.
Because that? I guess that would be just vocoding is what you basically were describing there, right?
Yeah.
Because I've got situations like, do you ever use Serum for anything?
I haven't used Serum. I've heard of it, but I haven't used it.
It's a synth, but you have the ability to plug, like there's one section that's for noise, but you can take any sample and put it in there and then manipulate it the way you would anything else in a synth. And so you can have it do basically like key tracking, and then you could play that whatever you put there with every key on the keyboard, and it will play it at the pitch that you've picked per the key, and it will just make the length adjustments automatically.
Yeah. So what
that's the kind of thing
that would be like in real time doing the thing that I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was expecting.
It's exactly the same thing basically, except I think there's things that the programs have to do a little bit differently because the human voice is so imperfect with what it's doing.
Yeah.
That's when you get into vocals that sound really like if you take autotune, which I have autotune version 1 is what I use. So when I talk about autotune, I'm talking about something that's been obsolete for probably 10 years already. But when you take autotune and you turn the sound all the way up and you get that sort of like Eiffel 65, like every single pitch or glide that you have in your voice is being shifted to a note that's in the key. And then you can make
it just digitizes it basically, right? Like if you turn all the way up, it turns into a square wave and it's just like,
yes.
you got your stepping.
Yes, basically. And but the cool thing about that though is you can take out notes from the key. So like if you're in the key of C, right, then the key all the notes that are possible to play in the key of C that are still within the key are C, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, right? So it's all the white. What doesn't matter, but like those are the notes that you can play, and so you can take out, for example, like D and like the 2, which. Okay, I'm getting a little too... You can take out the D and the G and the F, which means no matter what you're singing, if you hit an F, if you're closer in pitch to the note above it or the note below it, it will automatically make it one of those two notes and skip the F note.
Sure.
And that's how you get all sorts of funky sounding stuff that's really unnatural and is not ever used very much, even for an effect. But you can do cool things like that.
Yeah.
It's really fun when you put something like that on an effect and you have it be only like one note. So like no matter what you're playing, it can only be an A note. It, like with the human voice, that really messes it up. And what happens is it ends up switching octaves, which is really weird sounding. Yeah.
Sounds like a great sound design tool, if you ask me.
Yeah, definitely could get some funky sounds, especially if you wanted to do something that was like robotic sounding. Okay, up next is Rent. We didn't really talk about that song very much, but that's okay.
We just that's what we just talked about.
I know that, but I mean, we weren't talking about the song. We were just talking about pitch shifting vocals. But that's fine. That's all right. Okay, Jaws. It'll be interesting to see how this sounds. I'm willing to bet that it starts out with the piano and her singing, and then some very simple drum beat comes in, and then there's a lot of pitch shifted vocals, and then some sidechain compression, and then it's over.
And a ton of bass.
And a lot of bass, yes. That mid-range. This is mid-range soup and / side compression, the album.
Yeah.
All right, Jaws. 3, 2, 1. Listen, this song's like totally different.
Yeah, shakers and bongos and stuff.
Dude, that's a good example of a band that does really cool stuff acoustically. Remind me to talk about Epica.
You don't even gotta say it. Just cause it's a game doesn't mean I gotta play it.
These are kind of lullaby sounding as well.
Yeah.
Taking the high road and living life fast. To look pretty, but don't be fooled. Go for broke if I don't like the rule. You know I keep my pop, but I am blowing bubbles. I'll tell you what, I'm not.
Notice how she popped her words on the word pop?
I'll be relaxing, stoking the cold.
She's such a silly.
Losing control. Oh, we're keeping tea hot, digging a pit. They say the future comes once, and maybe this is it. Oh, she got claws. Oh, she got jaws.
It's gonna be so hard for me to censor this.
No bras, don't trust nobody, baby. We're outlaws. Rebel with the cause. Oh, she got jaws.
Whoa, we got a transformer in there.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Never wanna see it when it's under your nose. Everything is fine when you're keeping your eyes closed. I know you love to say stay in your lane. Makes you feel better when you're showing your fangs. But I'll be relaxing, stoking the cold. World is collapsing, you're losing control. I'll be keeping the tea hot while you're taking the piss. They say the future only happens once, and maybe this is it. Oh, she got claws. Oh, she got jaws.
I like that delivery of that line.
Boots up, no bras. Don't trust nobody, baby. We're outlaws. Rebel with the cause. Oh, she got jaws. Oh, she got jaws. I've been looking for most of my life, a place to get high, a place to just ride. I've been looking for a piece of my mind, best of my time. I'll ride till I die. She got claws, she got jaws. She got her guns out, boots up, no bras. Don't trust nobody, baby, we're outlaws. Ready with the cause. Oh, she got jaws, she got claws. Oh, she got jaws. She got her guns out, boots up, no bras. Don't trust nobody, baby, we're outlaws.
Okay. I think that's the best song on this album.
So far.
Do you agree?
I think so, yeah.
Really?
It's got the most happening. It's the most diverse of everything that's happened so far.
Yeah. That inclusion of that sort of like Transformers sounding synth in there really helps separate it. Mm-hmm. I really like her vocal performance on this one. It felt more like she was doing something that was slightly separated from the original version rather than just a slower version of the original version.
Yep. And it had the different layers were like significantly different, like little sing-songy things underneath whatever happening and stuff like that.
I really enjoy. I agree. I think that was the best song on this album so far. I really like that. And it's
the big Transformer sound reminded me of the foghorn in the movie The Lighthouse. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I don't know if I can say that I love it.
But
it's certainly
a little bit
is a thing.
It is definitely a movie. Yeah, it's too avant-garde to be something anybody loves.
It certainly is a thing. I really did like it a lot, though. That's a great movie.
Yeah. But yeah, that big foghorn sound in that movie.
Yeah, for sure.
It's such a cool sound.
I've heard other songs I think use that sort of sound before, though I was trying to think while we were listening to it what I would have heard that in, because that sounds like something that like the Birthday Massacre or something like could use in a background of a song. But I don't know. I liked. Actually, it was probably a Clayton project. Actually, now that I think about it, because Clayton would absolutely use a synth that sounds like that. But I like that song. I thought it was great. It's going to be really hard for me to edit that one to make it a clean version.
I was thinking what you could probably do is just get something like that sounds like it's part of the song, like the synth or something. Just take it out of a different spot or whatever, and just layer it on top so it doesn't cut it out.
Yeah, that's what you have to do when you're... Dude, you should try to do that. I'll bet you would love doing that. I feel like I'm really, really, really good at editing, making a clean version of a song without having any of the stems, just using the stereo track. I feel like
those intros that you used to do for the music room where you'd stitch all the songs from the episodes together was always so well done.
Yeah, I love doing stuff like that. I could really make a kick-ass cheerleading... Uh-oh, you're gone.
Gone.
Okay, we just had a bunch of weird technical difficulties, but let's soldier on.
Yeah, and I have no idea what you were saying. I completely forgot what you were talking about.
Me too. And you know what? I don't even care. Let's listen to Money in the Bag. Okay. Money in the Bag. This is Chris's favorites, one of his favorites for sure from the Pep album. So let's see how they do it here. You have not heard this one yet,
I don't think I've heard this yet.
Okay, awesome. All right, ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1. Very airy sounding.
Put the money in the bag. Do what I say. You're playing it cool.
This is totally different. I love it.
You mean like from the original?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's starting to feel like definite love, and I can't seem to get enough now. I want you to show you stuff, you better pay it up. Gotta stick him up now. I'm back on the east side looking for a good time.
Wondering what's gonna happen.
Get in trouble somehow. I want you to give me
What are they going to do when it gets to the... Hello, sidechain compressor, my old friend.
Yep. Real hard.
Your favorite and my favorite are screwed.
I think it's got to be intentional.
Yeah, it's a bad decision. There's also kind of like a glitchy sound that's going back and forth from the right to left. That was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I thought my headphone was rattling for a second.
rubber scars on the pavement.
I look really fat.
You're playing it cool. Put the money in the bag. Ooh, it's starting to feel like definite love, and I can't seem to show you stuff, you better pay it up. Let's dig him up now.
Put the money in the bag.
Take the money and ride on. Still nobody for your ransom. Take the money and ride on. Still nobody for your ransom.
There's some interesting like heartbeat sounding like kick drums in there. Blah. Blah.
It doesn't need to be over the vocals.
I agree. That's weird.
And you could hear it there on the part that was fading out under the piano. It was just, you know, and it's like this, at least in this song specifically, the sidechain feels so intentional that it's like a design choice for creating a pulse within the song, giving it a sort of like texture. But I don't understand why you would include the vocal track in that chain, because
Or the drums.
yeah, because she's got this big like hey, you know, the big reverb hey, but then it gets out to here and you're starting to cut it down. And it's like, this is the whole part of the beginning of this chorus, and it's just so strange to have the sidechain hit the vocals so hard.
You know, I was almost wondering while we were listening to that, I was like, I wonder if there's sort of like, like a genre of music that is just purely based around like side chaining stuff like that.
I think there's plenty of merit to using it in that pulsing kind of way where it gives a certain level of dynamic to a song that otherwise wouldn't have any without, because it's almost like the opposite of a kick. You know, it's like planting little black holes.
Yeah. I totally get that it can be used as an effect like that, but just to have it on the entire song is what ruins it for me.
It's so baffling, for sure.
Yeah, and the thing is, I was wondering, like, I wonder if there's, you know how there's like people do weird things on YouTube where they take like
regular songs and then just like slow them down 25% and then upload those, and that's like a whole genre unto itself.
Yeah.
Like, is there something like this, like ASMR type stuff, you know, for like helping people go to sleep and things like that? Like, maybe people get like calmed when they hear that, like the like waveness of it. You know what I mean? Like, it's got, you were right. It has to be an intentional thing, but it's so weird, isn't it? That was mixed exactly the way that OK was. It was the exact same thing. Our two favorite songs are the worst ones. Why would that be the case? Come on.
It's so odd. And it's interesting too, like, I was going to say we should probably explain what sidechain compression is now that we're almost done with the video.
Yeah.
But effectively, well, and that's the thing too, is like, in my experience with sidechain, I don't use it a ton. I use it mostly for vocals, but you use one track to trigger the compression in a different one. And so it's like, what is the thing that's triggering the sidechain if it's including the drums?
It's just a whole separate track that has every beat has a kick drum on it, and that track is just muted.
Okay. That's
know?
interesting. That makes sense.
That's what I'm guessing it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I've never tried it by just muting something, because why would I do that for what I use it for? But that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, for sure. We did talk about it a little bit earlier, but like in most forms of music, sidechain compression is used on like a kick drum, or a lot of the times on a snare drum, to help those instruments sort of kind of slice through the mix. So if you think about a country song or something, the snare drum usually has a lot of sidechain compression on it, and that's how it sounds so full and snappy in the mix in context with everything else. But usually it's done in such a way that you can't really hear it so much. But in a lot of electronic music and stuff, it's used intentionally to make things feel wavy. But yeah, I think let's just move on. All right, track 10, Salt and Vinegar. 3, 2, 1. One thing that's kind of bumming me out too is that there's a lot of cool like trip hop atmosphere here, but then there's the cool drum beat is not ever over there's never like a cool drum beat over it.
Bad decisions give me good things to think about. I just say, I don't know, out loud, over and over. Nothing like a pep talk to yourself. It works every time, but there I go again, lighting you up. I keep filling my cup. You think I'd had enough? There you go again, bringing me down, but still I stick around. I kinda like it now. You're angry.
A crash cymbal. Who would have thought that those even exist? I'll bet this is the first song she made for this album. It's the least slowed down. Whoa!
I like this.
You know what that is? I'll bet that's the original song slowed down and then garbled so much that that's all that's left of it.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Or like maybe through like a bit crusher.
Yes, absolutely. Some sort of digital distortion thing. Piano's really nice.
Salt and vinegar.
I like that thing. I like anything that gets a really really sparse use. Mm-hmm. Where it's just like, here's a thing, and then it's gone.
Yeah, I really like the piano in that one. You know, so far, we haven't gotten, as far as I remember at all, any lead melody at all in any instrument. There's been no melody in any instrument. A couple times we had like some like ping-pongy synth thing, but it has just been some very simple and somewhat, in my opinion, underwhelming drums and bass and her vocals the entire time. But again, that's, I think, what she's going for with the dreamy vibe. But that is now, in my opinion, the best song on the album.
The beginning of that song, it started, and my initial reaction was to make a comment about how it was just the bass, the non-vocal part of the track was exactly the same as it was on a different one, and she just started singing different words over it. But then,
yep.
But then it changed. Then it got more interesting, so I discarded that comment.
Almost every song has started with just piano.
Really similar, yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure that's how she
be to go through the album, just like start a song, 1 second, next. 2 seconds next, and then just like
I'll bet it'd be very similar. Yeah, exactly.
Of us in the next life, knowing what we know on our last night. It's hard to change when everyone stay the same, but voices carry, voices
it's clear to me that that's how she wrote these songs, right? She she played the chords on the piano, then she like muted the son of a bitch out of that, and then layered these like dreamy things over the top of it. That song reminded me of Jaws. Like like I said, I'll bet that was the first song she did for this, because it sounded so much more like I would have expected this album to be. Right? Like it felt like she had a vocal melody that belonged to this song rather than just being a slower vocal melody version of the one from Pep. Yep. And she actually had like a secondary vocal tracks that weren't just pitch shifted and like harmony tracks and stuff that you could tell she recorded for this song. That like distorted thing that was in the middle, that was really cool. That was a really unique element.
Was it Jaws or Rent that was the other interesting one?
It was Jaws.
Okay.
Yeah, Rent was the one we barely even talked about because we were talking about pitch shifted vocals.
That explains, yeah.
but Jaws is the one that we were like, oh, because Jaws is not one of my favorite tracks from the Pep, and I was like, oh, well, there you go again. One of my least, like, for example, Meteorites, right? Mm-hmm. Meteorites from Little Machines is not my favorite song on that album at all, but I think it might be one of the best versions on Midnight Machines.
Cool, yeah, that happens.
That's a example. All right, let's just keep going, and then we can talk about it a little bit as well. Okay, here we got Prodigal Daughter. What is going to happen here?
This was the big comeback song. This I consider this song, it starts at 11, and then it works its way down to like an 8.
Okay, okay, all right. Let's see what happens. Ready?
Yes.
Oh.
Forgot I had to answer you.
Sorry. 3, 2, 1. I'm like, oh God, is he gone again? Oh.
Take me to the doctor, cover me with holy water, cleanse me with fire, 'cause I am the prodigal daughter. I have been all the way down. Was a dead woman walking. You don't go looking for the truth until you've heard the devil talking. Now I'm making a living.
How cool would this be if it was like a gothic Americana version? You know?
Oh, don't even. How dare you tease me?
She could do that though. She can play the acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
That like tick-tocky sound in there. Okay. Yeah, this is clearly like coming from the same place as that last song. The drums way more prominent, more high frequency to them.
They say you better be on it, but you gotta be overly cautious, so you lie to yourself. You say the high road is the longest, so you go all the way down. Leave it all at the bottom.
Yeah. Spread very wide. It's in both sides.
That low bass is real low.
Honestly, I don't know if my headphones have been able to handle that the whole time. Some of the distortion I've been hearing might be like my inadequate frequency range.
Laying naked on the poolside. Baby,
also, I think the fluorescent light sound is gone.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about that last song.
Whoa,
very
that's
cool.
Come back up, unlock the cuffs, run, baby, run your free.
Little drum fill in there. Cymbal crash. new best song on the album, right?
Yep, getting better. Keeps on moving its way up.
That is awesome. Mm-hmm. I like that one. Go ahead.
There's a couple of different instances where, like, some of the distant, ethereal background vocal things. Remember, that song that we did years and years ago that my friend Levi covered, and then we kind of and we worked in. We had this idea to work in little bits of the original.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking of that earlier too.
And stuff. What's that?
I was thinking of the exact same thing. What you're talking about.
And I wish. Why are we still, the two of us, we can barely read, why are we still the only people who've done that? Like,
I know.
She could take these clips of the original and throw them, just, reverb them, wash them way out, throw them in the back, and it's just a piece of the actual original song, just cut right out and dropped in, played out, in and out. That'd be cool as shit, man.
Mm-hmm. It would.
Nobody
I don't know
does
why. I don't know why anybody does that. Probably because they legally don't own the rights to their own damn song. Can't do it. That's probably it.
That would be a shame if that was why.
I think that was great. I loved the drum beat the whole time. The drums on these last two songs have been more interesting, I think. And I think the frequencies sounded great. There was still sidechain compression on this, but it wasn't on everything. It was only on the sort of background soupy stuff. Like you said, the bass is this all-encompassing, huge, constant thing. I feel like her vocal track was definitely like it definitely sounded like it was created for this project. So I thought that was great. That could be a single for this. But again, like I said at the beginning, don't you think this song would have been really cool if it was just an acoustic guitar and her singing kind of like old Westy style, like, especially with the vocals, and
I'd
the
kill
lyrics.
for her to do something like, that Gothic Americana style. I would kill for her to do that.
Yeah. Well, and she has done just acoustic guitar, her finger plucking like broken chord arpeggiated, like a guitar part with her just singing over the top of it. And that would be really cool with that song. Now, I was going to ask you, what do you think she's going to do when she performs this live? Or is she even going to bother? Like maybe she'll play all of her regular set and then maybe take 2 songs out and throw in like 2 songs from this.
When I saw her in Victoria, when was that? Most recently, I want to say February maybe.
Oh, so she probably already had this album all done.
She did mention it. She had mentioned that the acoustic or whatever, the slow versions of Pep were on the way, and I think she played one, but I can't remember what it was. But it was
just
she was
bass
definitely
going
just at the piano. Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's true. But that's what I was going to say, though. I'll bet she could. We know that she can stand with an acoustic guitar and play all of these songs all the way through, or sit down at a piano and play the piano the whole time and make it sound just gorgeous and sing with it.
Yeah.
And part of me is like, thank you, Lights, for not just doing that. But a bigger part of me is just like, I wish you would have just done that. I just.
She can't win in that scenario.
But I just like, I don't know. Let's listen to the second to last song. This is
after we're done with this, I'm gonna throw any number of these into Reaper and see if I can isolate that fluorescent light sound and just have that be the only thing I can find and then pick it out.
That's a great idea. I hope you do that. This next track in my head is the one I've been curious about the most because I love the drum beat in this song, and the song is about a drum beat being in her head the whole time.
I can see how that would be interesting. Yeah.
So I'm curious how that is going to translate to this, and I would love it if there were no drums in this version, not a single one.
I was just going to say, what if there's none?
It ain't going to be that. It's going to be the same thing we've been this whole time, I'll bet. But that would be really cool if this one had no drums. Are you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Acoustic or electric guitar.
It's all the same every day, always catching my breath. Trying to stay in LA, but keep failing the test. I like the clouds in my brain and the weight on my chest. So give me love, give me hate, give me all of the rest. I can hear what you're saying. I don't care what you're playing.
Hey, she said the title of the album, dEd.
I love that. Very cool.
Dang, that is weird. But this is to symbolize the drums that are in her head.
I think she might need to go to the doctor.
Because it didn't belong in this song, that drum beat, for sure. The fluorescent frequency is back. That was cool, the vocals.
That's very cool.
Sing it. Baby, I'm a loser. Maybe love is dead. But I'ma keep on dancing to the drum in my head. Everybody talking, I can't hear what they said.
Vocal layering.
I'm too busy dancing to the drum in my head.
Here it comes. My screen's not narrow, not wide enough to like fully dance. I gotta contain my dance into here.
Everybody's turning into somebody else. I'm just out here trying to find a high
That like trap snare.
Tune into myself.
Love that. Very cool.
Yeah, very cool. She is such a good singer. Little instrumental part, that's nice.
Love how much stuff she's doing in this just with vocals. Very cool.
So she actually ended that song a little differently then. That's interesting.
That's my favorite now.
Okay, that's interesting. That is not mine. I don't think that it was bad, and I do think that it was better than a lot of the ones we've had because there were some more interesting moments there. But yeah, I'm not as impressed with that one as much as I am the one before this or the one before that or the one like 4 songs before that.
I was just thinking, based on the fact that the back half of this album has been so much stronger than the first half, wouldn't it be funny if she recorded them in order and then just flipped them after the fact? Like,
I wouldn't be surprised about that at all.
Yeah. I mean, I doubt this is, it would be silly to imagine that this was all done in like one day, but I don't know. There's just, you could project a sense of running out of steam happening by the time you got to Grip if you were to record these in reverse order from how they sit on the album.
Yeah. But also, like, I don't think there's been much difference between how any of them have sounded. Like, I think that song sounded just like a song from the beginning of the album, for the most part.
I do really like all of the different vocal elements of that and how much of what it was just a lot of really scattered, from almost from like a sound design or effect perspective. How many things
very
that were
fluttery
just voice.
sounding in there, some fluttery sounding stuff, which is really cool. Let's listen to the last song, then we can talk about it a little bit overall.
Okay.
This is Beside Myself, which is interesting because it was the intro on Pep and it's the outro on dEd. So let's see what we have here. 3, 2, 1.
Ghost
Is this going to be just piano and her?
in the next life, knowing we know on our last night, try to remind us.
This is gonna be all sidechain.
They remind
Worst yet.
Or it might just be this the whole time.
Yeah.
on tight. Call
Love it.
me
Whoa.
in the morning
Very cool.
when you wake up. The world is in motion, and when you reach me,
That's cool.
with me,
How interesting.
other side.
Well, you called that sidechain compression. You called that.
Yeah. I didn't want to.
Her lead vocal here is pitch shifted, which is interesting. Crash cymbal. That's good.
Yep. And then gaps. Sidechain gaps a mile wide.
I think there's cool elements in there, but it's hard to tell.
Hold me like it's the last time, like you remember how it felt
That's
the
cool.
first time. I know we're dying. Tell me
There you can really hear the fluorescent lights.
to be alright.
They're constant now. Now they're gone, so that leads me to think that they might be in her track, though I don't know if that's possible. You know how something like that can get into a song very easily? If you're mixing it in the same room that you recorded it in, and it's just a part of the ambient sound of the room, you would never know that it's in the recording.
Interesting.
Oh, it's back now. I feel like this is wasting my time.
I feel like that whistle wasn't being affected by it.
Dreaming and waking, don't leave me waiting, don't leave me here beside myself, beside myself.
Oh boy. Okay, well, You called it there. You said this is going to be the worst sidechain compression. I don't know if I would necessarily say it was the worst one, but man, it was there.
It was really, it was super there.
So, you tell me some of your thoughts overall, because I know exactly what I'm going to say, and I'm pretty sure you know what I'm going to say, and I don't want to say it yet.
I think overall I don't care. I don't care about this. Nothing in this gives me any reason to come back and listen to it ever again. Like, not to say that I don't want to listen to this ever again, get it out of my face. Like, it's fine. There's some cool stuff. You know, every song has at least one kind of neat thing in it or more. But Pep is one of her best albums. And this is one of her worst answers to that, I think.
Okay,
in terms of like just the dichotomy between the canyon between how good Pep is and how not good dEd is. And I hesitate
not good,
bad.
but just
right. I don't want to be that harsh about it. It's just, I don't know. I didn't even know Skin and Earth had an acoustic one because I never listened to the normal one anyway. And so technically to me, this is the follow-up to Midnight Machines. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think I agree with a lot of what you said, and I think you kind of toned me down a little because I was going to be like, this is bad. But I think you're right. I think the thing I was going to say for sure was I don't think that there would be any reason for me to come back and listen to this again. I throw Midnight Machines on every now and then because I love it so much. And, and I will also say, too, Midnight Machines technically is an EP. There's only, I think, 6 songs on it. So,
which is such a travesty.
It is. If it was a full-length album and every song, no, there's 8 songs. So it's pretty close.
Pretty close.
And actually, it's probably longer than like Linkin Park's first album, which is a full album.
Most things are. Most TV shows are.
That's true. But yeah, I just, I don't know. I think sometimes when I listen to an album that I think is disappointing to me, there's 2 reasons for that. Either it wasn't made for me, which, sorry, my phone is ringing here. I got to wait for someone to answer it.
I hear it.
Someone answered it. So either something's disappointing to me because it wasn't made for me, in which case I feel like that's completely forgivable. That's on me for not liking it rather than being on the artist for making something that I think is objectively bad.
Sure.
But then there's something like the album I listened to this morning that is objectively someone somewhere made a decision that was the wrong decision that screwed the entire project and made it objectively bad. And this...
I want to know what that is so bad.
I'm going to make you listen to a song in a little bit. But this, I think, is an interesting in-between. Because while I do think objectively on those... I think it was 3 or 4 songs for sure that we specifically were like, this is unacceptable levels of sidechain compression. Your favorite one, my favorite one, in terms of the songs we like from Pep. And then the last one we just listened to.
Yeah.
For sure, and I think there maybe even was one more in there somewhere.
Because once again, it's not like it can totally work as a stylistic decision, but it's so odd how it takes over everything that's happening. If you want to take that and use it on the bass and give it like a dubstep kind of wubby aspect to it, that's fantastic, but don't throw the vocals in on the same bus. I don't understand why it takes the whole song and just cuts sections out of it like an ice cream scoop.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. That's the decision that I think made it, in my opinion, objectively bad in that way. I will also say I despise the frequency range of this album the entire time. I understand that she's going for like dreamy pop, like dreamy feel, but there's no reason that you couldn't have frequencies above like 1,000 hertz in these songs. There's no reason. I don't think it was like egregiously bad to the point where like it's not as
sound like there was an album like that.
Black Keys.
No, not that one.
Diablo Swing Orchestra.
Like it wasn't like Diablo Swing Orchestra where you're like, I feel like something I'm using is broken.
Yes.
It wasn't that.
In that case, that was really bad because you could tell that those frequencies were there somewhere.
Yeah.
They had just been like punched out of the songs. Whereas this, I feel like this was made to be low frequency. This was made to be soupy. And then her vocals, I do think, sounded fantastic sitting on top of everything. So, and there were some drums and things that did have that. I totally get the dreamy vibe of it. And that's kind of where, for me, I will say this wasn't made for me. Yeah. I much rather prefer if this was like a high fidelity type sounding thing where everything matched the frequency range of her voice, and it was just a matter of making the arrangements of the songs. But the thing is, in order for that to have been the case, she would have had to put like probably quadruple or 5 times the amount of effort into each of these songs. Like this, what she did was just play some chords, throw some like bass underneath it, add that low pass filter over everything, and then she threw a few little tasty things here and there over the top of a very simple drum beat, and then her vocals. That was the formula for every song on this album, but minus those 3 songs that we specifically pointed out were really good that I think had a little bit more thought put into them. And so because of that, that's where my disappointment comes from. Like, I totally understand what she's doing, and I can say that it's not for me, and that's forgivable. But at the same time, I think there were some decisions that were made that made this bad in a way that I think is objectively bad, that could have been different decisions made to make the album sound overall better. Yeah. So that's kind of where I sit with this.
Which sounds to me like if you had to give it a number, it would be like a 6.
Oh, no. For me, it would be like a 4.
Oh, that 4 is dark. That's pretty bad.
Yeah. Like the album I listened to this morning is like a 1 because every song...
I can't wait to get my ears on this.
Every song was phenomenal. It just sounded like garbage.
Oh.
And but like this, it like we're talking the difference between gonna be the thing I talk about in my most disappointing albums of the year in our top 12 albums of the year list to number 1 of the year.
Ooh.
We're talking that difference. But with this,
so unfortunate.
Yeah. But with this is not that disappointing. And again,
this never would have been number 1.
No, it never would have been. And again, that's because it wasn't necessarily made for me.
Sure, and that's fine. Totally.
For sure. I feel like this
and I agree with that. This never, ever would have been number 1 for me. But yeah. I can still look at it and go, that being said, I don't understand why you've done this.
Yeah. Yep. And, I also understand the idea of her wanting to try something different with one of these, like, acoustic albums, we keep calling it, these down-tempo versions. Like, I understand her, because every time she does do one of these, she does kind of try to approach it a little differently.
It is a very low-stakes venture.
Yeah, and it's a moment for her to try things out, I feel like, that she maybe wouldn't for her albums. So I appreciate that. Okay, hold on. We're getting so far from lights. Let's end the lights
video.
Let's end the lights video. We'll just say I want to say thank you very much for watching. If Lights ever sees this, do not base your opinion of our opinions on you on this video because we love you so freaking much and we think you're so great, and everything else you've ever done is so much better than this garbage of an album. This garbage.
Wow, right to her face.
Of an album. So,
the G word right to her face.
Hey, it's over you.
Oh, he's gone. Damn.
Okay, Chris is gone. He just... Thank you very much for watching. I got lots of good stuff coming out on my channel. Probably more with Chris. I'll end the video here. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time.
Counted 1, 2, 3.
What are you doing?
Sorry. Sometimes I practice my getting down into that as low as I can go. But
Sure, that's cool.
While you were gone, though, I was trying to make the most annoying sound that I could. So that might be kind of a fun little thing for me to chop out and then speed up really fast and include at the end as a blooper.